Guys, it's Gus. And if you didn't know already, the new Module 27, is coming out next Tuesday, November 7th. And hopefully there's a campaign buyout in the Zen market that day so we can do the trial day one. So that means the trial is a week away. So I'm preparing and making my build for the next trial. A couple caveats: there is no way, shape, or form I think this will be the best build possible. There's so much we do not know about this trial yet. This is going to be very class specific on what's going to work best. We just don't know. For example, MC weapons might possibly be the best weapons. The ring that hits three enemies that gives you 6% damage may be better than the 5% accuracy ring. Batiri may be utterly useless because the lieutenants may not even be counted as bosses. We don't know. There's a lot we don't know, but we're probably not gonna, experiment with the trial. We're probably gonna jump in feet first without touching the water first, and this is what I plan on using. Very subject to change. If the hoster wants me going MC, I'm going MC. I'm not using the new ones yet. They're super expensive. Their cost is going to be cut in half very soon. Uh, so I'll use the Fey MC weapons, no problem. So right now I got the accuracy helmet on. This comes from the campaign store. Gives you 10% accuracy when your stamina is over 75%. I'm using the tactful leathers. They give you 7.5% crit severity. It's from the Ancient Dragon Hunts. I'm using the Abyss Healing Mitts. This is from the first boss and Master Demon Web Pits. The Perfect Weapons, which come from Master Demon Web Pit's last boss, random drop, and the boots that come from either the second or third boss and Master Demon Web Pits. These give you 5% combat advantage whenever you're closer to an enemy. The couple good things about the perfect weapons is they give you 5% crit and 5% crit severity over time. Um, you get one stack of each every 5 seconds. So after 25 seconds, you'll be at full 10% stats. It also gives you a 3% damage buff. They're high item level, which increases your base damage, and they give you actually a damage modifier to increase your damage even more. Uh, these all have on armor reinforcement or power armor reinforcement kits. Artifact, you can put any artifact your hoster or you want to use right here. Um, uh, Hopefully you get stuck with a 1200. You might get a 600. Who knows? You can have either 1800 item level artifacts here. I have the Merilith Mask and the Rod of Pain. The Rod of Pain is stupid expensive. You might want to use the new crystal in here, but you gotta use the music box set if you're Hunter Ranger. This thing is looking so damn good. I'm posting a video on it. This is an old set from the Undermountain. We still use it. It's still commonly used. I use it in Master Demon Web Pits on the mobs. Back when trials weren't burnt so fast, this music box set was used by everybody. It's still really good. It could be used in Zemnid. The problem is everything is so burst focused that slasher's mark during an artifact call is doing so much damage that the music box set may not be as appropriate. But in AoE, woo, it's good. Um, this cable is the big holdup, though. There's only a couple on PS4 in the auction house. The rest you got to get from you got to go farm them. You got to do master expeditions. I'm using the 5% encounter ring because hopefully we're using, as an HR, we want to be using encounters as much as possible. Aim shot or split shot we're going to use whenever we can't use an encounter. And this ring's just going to help our encounters even more. I'm still using the Dragon Cult shirt. 5% combat advantage. It's like 1,000 AD. In the auction house, you can go farm it in the world map in Dragonbone Vale. And I'm using the Hatred Pants that come from the heroic encounters in Narbondelin. You can buy these as well if you don't want to farm it. The stats, yeah, they look like total ass right there. Well, you could argue they're still ass, but the power is much lower than it looks. I am using a Raptor, so you got to add 15% more power there. And I'm also assuming the group's going to have a Mystic Aura and a runic aura. So that's 19% more power. So this will be sitting at like 89%, and I'm okay with that. I'm assuming we're gonna if we have I'm leaving room for the portobello. I have a portobello. If the group needs it, I'll run it. If not, I'll be short one power, 1%. Big deal. I could use a invocation blessing if I wanted to, because there's plenty of room in the stats to add more. Accuracy is going to be seen at 86.4 because we're still missing 2,250 accuracy from the Mystic Aura. And then combat advantage, believe it or not, is going to be at 90.3 because we're still going to get 3,600. I believe it's 3,600 combat advantage from two-time, 3,375 from two-time pack tactics. So usually, the tanks will run pack tactics and the two healers will run a runic aura and a mystic aura. Major buffs to the group. So combat advantage will be good. If we don't have a portobello, I'll be sitting at like 87%. I don't care about that 3% too much because this is an AoE environment. You're not having combat advantage as much as you would on single target. Because sometimes if you're trying to go completely around the enemy to get combat advantage, it might be dead before you get around it. You want to always be attacking if you can. Crit strike. I am wasting 85 stats here. I know. I just could not get rid of those 85 and distribute them anywhere else that would benefit. I don't like wasting stats, but I can live with 85 stats out of, the 86,000 times 5 times the 430,000 stats we have. I'm wasting 85 of them. I'm okay with that. Crit strike will be at 86.5. The reason why it's at 86.5 is hopefully one of the healers is a paladin, because the paladin's aura next mod won't be a 2% crit buff. It will be a 4% crit buff. If we don't have a paladin, I will change my book imp back to Alchemist Experimenter. So I'll be sitting like 89% crit. I want a high crit. I would argue in AoE, well, crit might be important everywhere, but in AoE, yeah. You're not always going to have CA, but you can control the crit. And the crit sev is going to be at 90.3 as well. I'll be wasting 0.3 stats on crit sev. The reason why you're not seeing it all is because we're not getting the 7.5% from the chest piece. And so attributes, chest. Oh, and we're going to get 5% more from the weapons. So you're not seeing 12.5%. And if you add that 12.5 to the 77.8, you'll be at 90.3. So I'm happy with the stats. The consumables I'm using to get there is that's the seared tuna from the Guild Stronghold Merchant, the Warlord's Sunlord's Gift Elixir, the Squash Soup, and the Flask of Potency. Enhancements. Okay, this is gonna be where it becomes very questionable. This is where people are gonna go, "What are you doing, Gus?" So use whatever enchantments give you the stats you need for offense. Currently, this build is using an amethyst, an opal, a garnet, and another amethyst. You're always going to probably want to put garnet down here for the forte, and as a DPS, you're either going to want garnet or amethyst for awareness or defense. Still using the Rage of Flames and the Devil's Precision. Now I'm using Cursed Burn. So this build is short about 5% stats. Short 5. So if I use the lightning enchantment, I'll be wasting 10% stats. And that's fine, right? I could take off this chest piece, but the only replacement for it really is the 6% damage when you're behind an enemy. And you won't have a very high uptime. I could replace this 5% 5% accuracy and do 8% more on at-will ring, but we're not doing very many at-wills. We don't have the damage boots yet, right? So there's no damage helmet we can use here. We could use the damage gloves, the ones that if you get hit, you get a 5% buff for 10 seconds. I don't know the uptime on those. We're in a position where we have a lot of stats, and it's great. It lets us move stuff around. If we go MC weapons day one, I will put on these MC weapons, take off the perfect weapons, and go right back to lightning enchantment. So because I'll lose those 10%, but I'll gain 15% back, and I'll fill that 5% stat I'm missing, and the 10% we're losing from the 10% we're losing from the perfect weapons. So I know the stats look weird. I know the weapon enchantment looks very weird. In an AoE environment, Curse Burn can do very, very good damage. So I'm looking forward to it. I know you want to run AP right here because it will give you the maximum amount of AP, but movement speed is uh, such a good stat. It's very underrated. Movement speed lets you get in position to do more damage, and it lets you get out of damaging positions faster, so you're less likely to die. When I get more comfortable with the trial, I might go AP right there. Powers, split shot and aim shot. These are going to be the two I use. Encounters, this is very questionable. I'm going to be doing hindering strike because the CW is the HR's best friend. When they do their arcane singularity and get all those mobs into one big ball, I can hit every one of them with this. Well, most of them with the hindering strike. This big magnitude puts grasping roots on them. I'm also going to use constricting arrow. You know, it is a small AoE, so if you hit one enemy that's grouped up with a bunch of other enemies, it will put roots on those enemies that are close to it. Thank you for that, Hammer. It was great theory crafting with you last night. Now, here's the tricky part. There's 3 viable options we can put here. We can do plant growth cordon. Plant growth is great. It's an amazing power, especially with the music box set. We can do long striders. Long striders does big damage because it's 650 magnitude. So if you hit that with the music box set, it's gonna hit everything else really nice. Or we can do rapid volley. This is the one I'm actually leaning forward to. I might replace plant growth with rapid volley. So you be using disruptive shot? I'll just leave slasher's mark just in case I accidentally use my daily at full power and I don't accidentally waste my daily on force ghost, which actually force ghost might be good, and seismic shot, which I don't want to use. Okay, I will be using aspect of the pack. I think every HR should be using it. The only reason I'm not going to be using it in a brand new 10-man trial is if another HR is using it. It's such a big buff for the group, guys. Now here comes the tricky part. If I'm using aspect of the pack, do I use Seeker's Vengeance or Crushing Roots? Well, Crushing Roots now makes when I do constricting or hindering strike or constricting arrow, it makes roots last for 3 seconds. So I'm gonna be going crushing roots. It could change. Now I could, if another HR's in there, I could go Seeker's Vengeance or Crushing Roots, but I might actually go Crushing Roots. Aspect of the Falcon. Like I said at the beginning of the video, we don't know what's best yet. We have so much we do not know. We're gonna be using Rate of Change, absolutely. We're gonna be using Thorn Roots, absolutely. This one, I'm actually might be going Biting Snares. It depends on my AP regeneration. So I got to get a feel for the trial to figure out how often I need my daily or when's most optimal. If I'm not getting enough AP, I'm going to take off Predator and put on Biting Snares. Force Bond reduces your cooldowns. It's much better than Commander-in-Chief, which you probably won't be using on mobs. And then more to the Disruptive, which is a change for me because I'm always running Slasher's Expertise. When you use more than disruptive, you buff your range powers by 10% for the next 5 seconds. So after your daily, you only want to be using, when you use your daily, you only want to be using range powers for the next 5 seconds, which is great because you could pop off constricting and 5 of these. Powers are subject to change. Boons, obviously you want to be running, well, for this build I'm doing crit sev. You can do either defense or awareness. I suggest those 2 over hit points. Oh, we don't have hit points. Good. And then I want to be running movement speed, but revive sickness. When you're learning a new trial, you're inevitably probably going to die. So you want to have the revive sickness boon if possible. Companions, I don't know yet, but I'm maybe using Regis. I could be using the Minotaur. I could be using the Intellect Devourer. I could be using Zuna. I don't know yet. Uh, I don't know which one's best. I could be using the Shadowcar Witch. I don't know, but I think I'm gonna go in there with Regis for now. I have a combat advantage, crit sev, combat advantage. I have precision on. This is helping me get that crit up. Crit looks a lot lower than it really is. That's because precision is not showing. Companion bonuses. I have Bacteria right up here slotted up top just in case I have to take it off. Because if, 80% of your damage is the mobs and 20% of the bosses, I might not even use Bacteria Wisdom, which is weird. I've been using this for years. Minsk, Neverwinter Night, a Raptor, Book Imp. Now, I've had a lot of discussions with the Raptor. Thank you, Camel, and thank you, Denzel. Man, they have spent so much time trying to help me figure out or convince me which one's best. So I think the conclusion is with a non-Raptor build, you can actually get more stats, more damage. But there's a big drawback. When you're using a non-Raptor build on an HR, guess what you're using most of your Mount Insignia bonuses on? Yeah, you're using it on Mender's Covenant, Execution Governor Covenant, and Assassin's Covenant, which means you lose a lot of defensive stats. But the worst case about that is you're losing all your opportunity to get all these great new Insignia bonuses coming out. So I'm sticking with Raptor. If the group wants to run a non-Raptor, fire with me. And book Imp's Presence, which I'll swap to Alchemist, which is combat advantage crit if we don't have a Paladin healer. Mounts. Wicked Lich, which comes from the Vecna slab, and Ferocity. And here's what I was talking about. So a lot of these are going to say no powers because I have these insignias set up for the new boons we don't have yet. So the colors are the same I've been using for years. Movement speed, gold gain, crit severity, stamina gain, and encounter powers. So I don't know about Artificer's Persuasion yet. If we have 2 tacticians in there, and that's more than enough, then obviously I'll take off Artificers. But Artificers currently does not have a 4-slot mount it can be used on, as far as I know. So this could change, but as now I'm using it. Because you want to do as many encounters as you can without using at-wills. At-wills are great, but encounters are better. This will be the Warlord. This will be the Warlord's motivation, the one that buffs your companion by 12% damage. This one and this one will be the new Tactician's Precision, I think it's called. The first one will reduce your cooldowns by 5 seconds after your daily, and the second one I'm hoping stacks and is reduced by 50% to 2.5 seconds. So every time I use my Disruptive Shot daily, I'll reduce my cooldowns by 7.5 seconds. And Gladiator's Guile, my most favorite Insignia bonus in the game for the 10% movement speed. A couple of notes. I don't think it's possible to get Tacticians, Gladiators, or Warlord's motivation with a 4-slot Insignia mount that has a preferred bonus. I don't think it's possible. Another weird fact, do you notice I do not have 1 Crescent Insignia in here as well, which is kind of unusual. I was using a lot of Crescent Insignias before, but now not with this setup. So that's the build that I'm jumping into the new trial with. This is all subject to change as we find out more information. We don't know a lot yet, but I want to go in there being able to do enough damage to help the group out, right? If you got any questions or comments, please do so below. Stay class, Neverwinter. See you soon.